Grow your career with a Master of Agribusiness degree from Kansas State University. Using the latest technology in distance education, we strive to deliver a world-class degree to a global audience in the food, animal health, and agriculture industries. We are dedicated to ensuring flexibility throughout the program, offering completion from anywhere and a variety of course schedules to work on your time. We focus on having a direct connection to the current professional landscape with industry experienced instructors preparing coursework with immediate applicability. During the 2.5-year program, you will have the opportunity to network with your fellow classmates to build professional connections around the world. 3 start dates are offered at multiple campus locations. Learn more about the award-winning program and find out how to apply by contacting us today.
Well, thanks for joining us here for our AgriPulse Washington Week in Review. I'm Spencer Chase, along with AgriPulse Senior Editor Phil Brasher. And Phil, the story again this week on Capitol Hill, trade legislation, specifically Trade Promotion Authority, the legislation giving Congress an up or down vote on trade agreements, allowing the President and the administration to negotiate a little more freely, maybe get the best offers from other negotiating countries as the points have been made. And got through the Senate this week, took a little longer than usual. Phil, any impressions on the way the whole process played out?
Well, nothing's easy in the Senate. It takes 60 votes almost to do anything, which means you have to have, if you're now the majority, Republican majority, it means you have to have Democratic support. And even on the Republican side, there's a few senators who have problems or had problems with trade policy, and particularly the fast track process, and wanted to add some additional requirements. It was very important for the White House and the Senate leadership to keep the bill as clean as possible. Farm groups weighed in this week with that same message to keep off any amendments that were going to cause problems for the bill. Had a really probably the really critical vote came on Thursday. It was a cloture vote to allow them to move forward on the bill. Really dramatic. It was great to watch it develop, because it needed 60 votes. I knew they were losing a handful of Republicans. There was a point where they had about 7 Democrats, needed at least 10, and there was about a 20-minute period where nobody voted. Almost everybody who was going to, whose vote was certain, had voted up until that point. We had this huddle of about 7 or 8, both Democrats and Republicans, on the floor. Senator from Washington, Maria Cantwell, disappeared into the cloakroom. Turns out she was taking a call from President Obama. This was on an unrelated issue, the Export-Import Bank, but she wanted to get some commitments that would be dealt with. And then she came back. There was another huddle, this time with Majority Leader Mitch McConnell. And it turned out he was making a commitment to her to have a separate vote on that issue. As soon as that conversation ended, she and several other senators turned around and quickly voted, and it was done. I wound up 13 Democrats voted for it, put it over the top, and we moved ahead toward what would turn out to be the final votes on Friday.
Washington inside baseball at its best, I suppose. So now this clears through the Senate, giving the bill over to the House of Representatives. They've got their own bill, their own form of the legislation. They're on both House and Senate on break this coming week for Memorial Day recess. So any anticipation as what can we expect as far as timing, as far as topics in the House of Representatives?
Well, we fully expect the House to take this up in June. Speaker Boehner has been fairly positive. The chairman of the House and Ways and Means Committee, Paul Ryan, has predicted that it would pass the House. So it's likely to be very close, but all the signs are pointing toward passage in the House. But there may be some more drama over there. Probably won't be dragged out because the majority has much more control of what happens in the House. They will need some Democratic votes. By the way, Spencer, while we're talking trade and we're talking House, the World Trade Organization on Monday made a very critical ruling in the country of origin labeling dispute between the United States and Mexico and Canada. And there's going to be some House action on that, it looks like, as well. You were covering it. How did it go?
Right. How about that? Phil Brasher turning the tables on me here. But as Phil mentioned, the World Trade Organization ruling basically upholding a previous ruling that the U.S. country of origin labeling law is not compliant with international trade law. And so right then and there, basically the same day, within a few hours, House Agriculture Committee Chair Mike Conway out of Texas took pretty much immediate action to repeal the law as promised and as pretty much expected. He's never been a fan of country of origin labeling. In fact, his first speech on the floor of the House of Representatives back when he was elected was advocating for the repeal of COOL. And so now he's in a position of leadership to really make something happen on that front. So he's introduced a bill along with Congressman Jim Costa out of California. It's basically a clean repeal of the beef, pork, and chicken requirements of the law. This law also covers some other things like lamb, goat, also some kinds of fish and nuts, but the bill doesn't touch that. Congressman Conaway said he basically just wants to take care of the troubling subjects as far as COOL is concerned. And so it'll be kind of interesting to see how this debate plays out because the Senate is not as much of a fan of repeal. But Congressman Conaway doesn't appear to have any other options on his mind besides repeal. He went as far as to say at a press conference earlier this week that the Senate will consider any option. Well, this is the best option in his mind. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays off. And, that's something that we could see action on in early June, he said, in talks with leadership. But, I mean, it's Washington. That could be a very fluid schedule as well, as we found out this week on trade.
Right. Yeah, the big question is going to be the Senate and how quickly they deal with it. My guess is there's still the penalty phase. Canada and Mexico still have to get approval for retaliatory tariffs on U.S. exports. And that's going to be the thing that's really going to trigger the pressure on Congress to deal with this because there are all sorts of other sectors who could potentially face and likely would face some major tariffs on their products. So it could be that this it takes a few months to play out in terms of that. So there's another deadline just down the road. So.
Right, and if the WTO retaliation process authorizing Canada and Mexico to authorize sanctions, if that plays out perfectly on schedule, the sanctions would hit, I believe, sometime in the August recess. So really, Congress has got the summer to decide this. Now, WTO is kind of notorious for slipping on deadlines a little bit, so we'll see how long both WTO and Congress takes to act on this issue. Also, a little bit of action, just of note, the Senate Agriculture Committee passed their version of the Grain Standards Act. The House has similar legislation, so we'll be watching that as that moves forward. But otherwise, a fairly busy week on Capitol Hill. Going into a recess, folks have a lot of stuff to get done so they can go back to their constituents and say they did it. Yeah. So the Senate and House are both off next week, and as are we. Won't be a Washington Week in Review video next week, but you can still count on an AgriPulse newsletter coming on Wednesday, as well as daily harvest emails coming Tuesday through Friday. So with that, for Phil Brasher, I'm Spencer Chase. Have a good one.